Keeping that. Welcome back to the Closed Cinema Podcast, episode 3, in which we will be discussing franchises and whether some films should exist, should they stop doing it. For many of them, I think it's going to be a yes, please stop. And joining me today, we have Danny.
Bonjour.
Hi, Danny. We have Kieran.
Hello. I'm very happy that we finally have a name.
Woo! And we have Liz.
I'm very angry about us having a name. I feel like what we were doing before was fine. We don't need structure. We can just freeball it. This is fine.
As long as we have tension and we disagree about everything.
Ooh, tension.
Loving the drums. Oh, and I'm Tara, by the way. So let's.
Hi, Tara.
Hello, friends. Let's kick this off with possibly the most notorious franchise, most dividing opinions, and what seems like the longest running, even though it's not true, but when have we ever been alive where this hasn't had a film come out? The Fast and Furious franchise.
Full disclosure, never seen one.
I think I've seen number 5, and that's it.
I'm almost proud of myself for completely
we have,
missing
however, tying back to theme parks, ridden the Fast and Furious ride.
Is it any good?
No, it is the single worst ride I've ever been on. Picture this. Let me paint you a word picture. Imagine, they made, a giant, huge building that looks like a warehouse, that it's got so much queuing space, it's insane. And because they thought that it was going to have a huge, demand, they put it on this virtual queuing system. So they thought it's going to be, a big deal. We get to the park. We're like, okay, let's get in the virtual queue. Virtual queue says, ride now. We're like, okay, we'll just get in the queue. We walk through an entirely empty building to get onto this ride. You go into this showroom where there's this person who I believe is called Jamie, who's
No, it's Pat.
I feel like one's Jamie, one's Pat.
I think
it's very gender neutral.
I'm sorry, are they characters or are they
yes,
just employees?
They hire the employees who are being actors who say things like rad and cool.
Oh, God.
And they have these screens where they awkwardly interact with pre-recordings of the cast. And they keep on saying the actors, the actual people in the film keep saying yo dog, you can't put your phones away, the feds, they're going to track us, nobody record anything. Because they clearly thought this ride was going to be so popular. They were like, oh, can't people filming this will ruin the surprise. You get on it, you get on a party bus, in quotes, and it's awful. It's a slow-moving, vehicle with 2 giant screens around you, which you can very clearly see where the screens start and stop. And it's this weird CGI nightmare of Vin Diesel, where at one point he's the same size as a helicopter.
Oh my God.
And it's just it's awful. It's absolutely awful. I think Luke Evans is in it for some bit. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. Terrible. 10 out of 10 would ride again.
Would you rather ride that ride, or watch a Fast and Furious movie throughout?
I'd rather watch a Fast and Furious movie. I feel like at least those have something about them.
Wow.
It's about their familia. Oh, from what I've heard.
And drinking Coronas?
Oh.
Yeah, they love Coronas.
They're going to have to switch for the next one, aren't they?
No, I think Corona's going to give them a lot more money for them to keep it in now.
Yeah. They're going to need to get their revenue back.
Their sales have dropped.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need to find some new ways to make some revenue, aren't they? So I'm sure the next one, that will just be all plastered all over the next Fast and Furious.
I'm sure Vin Diesel can save them.
So, okay, I feel like we need to set out our bona fides before we, attack the franchise. I've seen none of them. Lissa, you've seen one.
I've seen one, but one of the middle ones.
Danny, how many
I
have you
have
seen?
no recollection of how many I've seen or which ones I've seen. I think I've maybe... How many even are there? I think I've maybe seen 25?
Out of a potential million or so.
I don't actually think anyone knows how many there are. I think it's actually...
Even Vin doesn't know.
It's a myth, actually. I think that there's no recorded number of how many there are. I think they've even made some for themselves, and they've just kept it hidden away.
For the familiar.
Yeah. I think I've seen maybe 4. I think I've seen 4, but I don't even know if I've seen them in order. I've definitely seen the first 3.
But the third
First one,
isn't,
Tokyo Drift.
that's not in order.
I know. So I've seen Fast and Furious 1. I can't even remember the names. Fast and Furious of the fastest of the most furious. I think that's number 1. Furious the second of first of his name. That's the second one. And the Tokyo Drift is the only one that anyone really knows the name of.
And what a classic it is.
Isn't there a Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yes,
and isn't there one that's just called like, it's not the Fast and Furious, it's just Fast and Furious?
Yeah,
They just drop the
and then there's
Yeah.
Fast 5, Fast again,
Oh,
Fast,
isn't it
faster,
Fast 5?
and then there's
With like a 5
Yeah.
and then I.
yeah,
So it's 5 Ive.
Yeah.
Oh, like Fan Four Stick.
Yeah, it's
Oh no.
Fast 5 Ive.
I think I'm about the same level as Danny. I know I've seen the first 3, and I've seen maybe 1 or 2 of the others, but could not tell you what. Also, couldn't tell you the titles with any confidence.
no, exactly.
So, do we feel we have seen enough to judge how much we should have done?
I want it to be endless. I want this to be like a life-spanning thing
Yeah.
for Vin Diesel and especially The Rock, who apparently hate each other, which I kind of love and I'm about it. I want it to be like a never-ending thing. I want 1 to come out every year, at least not 2. I want more spin-offs. I did not see Hobbs and Shaw, but I love the concept.
I can't
of it.
wait to for my like great grandkids to tell their great grandkids that their great grandfather saw the first Fast and Furious.
Moving on.
I like the fact that they've led into like they know it's in, like they after like the 4th one. I'm assuming they realise it's ridiculous and they just keep doing more and more ludicrous, impossible things.
Yeah, they gave
And
up
I'm
on
here for
physics
it.
at some point.
Yeah, they definitely do. Like,
I love the silliness. I'm here for it. I've never seen it, but I support it wholeheartedly, and I will defend it in court.
Like the first 1, 2, or 3 started out pretty standard. Like they were just about kind of like drag racing, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know, driving across glaciers that are melting, and all of a sudden they are, you know, driving underwater or whatever. I have no idea what happens. You know, they could well be driving on the moon in the next one. Who knows? But
They so
Yeah,
well,
the first-
won't they?
the first-
They will go to space.
yeah.
It'll be, what's that film where they send like engineers to the moon or something instead of astronauts?
Oh, Deep Impact, where they send miners to the meteor.
No, that's not Deep Impact. That's Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Yeah.
They send the same.
I think they'll
It's
have
not
enough.
always. It is not au contraire, mon frère. It is not same. One is Michael Bay. Very different.
They teach miners to be astronauts and send them to the asteroid instead of teaching astronauts how
God,
to
I
mine.
just had a whole wave of Armageddon just wash over me. Separate note, non-podcast note. Can we have a movie night to watch Armageddon? Because that one will be a whale of fun.
yes, please. I think we should watch
I did.
like Armageddon, Deep Impact, all of those kind of like.
Because they're the same.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. I think they pretty much come out at similar times as well.
Yeah, I think they actually did. It was the same. It was like during that period where like everything came out at the same time. Like there were like several like volcano movies that came out the same year, and you know, Hollywood just did that thing. It was like we need to blow things
Yeah.
up. How?
Oh, what's the other one that Danny Boyle made? That one's very similar too. I can't.
Sunshine.
Is it Sunshine? Yeah.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah.
Though. Like that one's made with someone who has
That's
actual
like
skill in
the
directing.
sun is like dying out or something, right?
So
Yeah, that one's
it
really
would
good.
be rude if we like watched them at the same night.
It's
It'd
true.
be an offence to
Danny Boyle.
who's just a
Okay,
nice man.
So speaking of unnecessary trips to the moon, is Fast and Furious American James Bond?
No.
No.
It just take it. No, just check.
It's.
I've never
I
seen
guess
it.
it's more like American Italian job.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because I've not seen Italian Job. I know there are cars in it.
Yeah.
They're same movie.
Yeah,
right?
Italian
Yeah,
job's like a
I'm
sort of
pretty
like
sure.
heist getaway kind of movie. So that's what they've kind of turned into, haven't they? They started out as mainly being about drag racing and cars and you know.
The familiar.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, yeah, they're being shot into space.
But
They
also,
probably will.
I've not seen I think I've seen maybe one film all the way through. Have seen on multiple occasions the scene where they say goodbye to Paul Walker, and I have cried my eyes out. So Fast and Furious can continue forever because the between Vin Diesel and Paul Walker lives even beyond the grave, and it's beautiful. He named his daughter Paula. It's a whole thing. We love them. We love them, I say.
And the song "See You Again" I think meant a lot to a lot of people, even if they weren't Fast and Furious fans. It was, it was about grief, but it was also about the real love you have between friends, and that they do sometimes become your family. So then maybe it was worth them getting up to 7.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So are we all agreed on continues indefinitely forever?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I was just going to say, I think this is something of a modern day Police Academy, if you've ever seen those films. They would not stop. There's 7 of them between 1984 and 1994. Even though the first one was a great film, really funny, I wouldn't have said it would ever need any other storytelling to go on, but it did. Okay.
So how many Fast and Furiouses are there actually? Are they sort of like Vin Diesel's Horcruxes? Like every time he kind of makes a film, he grows stronger.
Oh, I thought you meant it splits his soul.
Oh,
again.
well, and that, I suppose. It splits his soul, he gets stronger, and he can never die, which is why he'll always make them for the rest of eternity. Every single one he makes allows him to live, until
Slightly
another.
longer.
He just jumps between, that's kind of how he's still alive.
Great. Okay, next franchise. Thank you, Danny. Arguably an equally controversial franchise, but in very, very different ways. Star Wars.
I'm just sad that they decided to end it on episode 8 and didn't do a follow-up to it for episode... They should have made an episode 9, but you know what? I'm willing to accept that it finished at episode 8 because I'd rather that than a terrible movie.
Okay, moving on. Next film.
I'm joking. I hated Rise of Skywalker and I'm still not over it. It's been months and I'm still bitter. Still mad. We'll die mad.
I'm gonna fly the flag for keep making Star Wars movies because at this point there have been so many Star Wars things, books, video games, TV shows, movies, that it's just it's almost its own genre of subgenre of sci-fi to be Star Wars, and a lot of them are crap. But I love all of them anyway, just because I love the genre of Star Wars. I would say,
we need a break from the movies, but keep doing what you're doing with the TV shows. I really enjoyed Mandalorian more than I thought I was going to, because it was doing something different in a really interesting world with good lore. And I want more of that. I want to explore different parts of the universe, different characters. I just think they should need to pause. The Skywalker saga, I don't think it was the best idea bringing that back. I would have been... As much as I really, really love Force Awakens, and I think it's a great movie that sets up a whole lot of stuff which never gets... Well, I say never gets addressed. It gets addressed, but in the worst way.
Poorly.
So I would have rather have had a completely original trilogy set in this universe, because the universe is cool. It's a cool universe. It's fun.
Laser swords. You cannot beat laser swords.
They're just
for
cool. And seeing more stuff with Clone Wars, and they've got some really good characters. Ahsoka Tano is potentially one of the most popular Star Wars characters now. People love her. It makes me feel more hopeful for doing something different and doing a story outside. Although, to be fair, Clone Wars is part of the Skywalker saga if you squint at it enough. Because it's when Anakin was alive.
Yeah, it's a Skywalker story. But yes, I agree. It needs to just expand and be more things. And I think they are trying to do that.
What do you guys think?
Which one was that? Was that Solo, did you say?
I didn't see Solo, and I still refuse to see it.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, don't see it.
I haven't watched it yet because I was told that it just disgraces all other Star Wars movies. So I haven't actually seen it, so I have no comment on that one. But
I'm a very firm believer, and to be fair, at the moment, I feel cruel saying it because all cinemas are closed, and we should do as much as we can to support cinemas when they do reopen. But I'm a big believer in paying to go to the cinema to see things you want them to make more movies of. I want more of this, I will pay to go and see
Yeah, you're
this.
voting with your purse. So.
Yeah, exactly. So with Solo, I was I will refuse to pay money for this because I don't want this.
Yeah.
This isn't what I want.
No, I agree. Yeah, in the same way that Fast and Furious carries on, people love them. People go to see them. You should think about, and I don't particularly like the Fast and Furious movies, so I'd never go and see them in the cinema. So yeah, you vote with you pay with your wallet. You vote. You vote.
You pay with your wallet.
You pay with your wallet. You vote with your wallet. That's your voting intention. That's you're paying to see the movie that you want to go and see, and for them to continue making. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so pause on the movies, more TV, maybe?
Sounds like a verdict.
Yeah.
Tara?
I was sort of just reflecting on all 9. I was thinking the prequels, not very popular with a lot of people. Did some very odd things. I wasn't personally a fan, but then I really loved Force Awakens. But I was thinking in terms of generationally, it brought it back for a lot of people, because like we were children when the prequels came out. I'd never seen the original 3.
Yeah.
But it just brings it back for that people who were originally fans, their children now watch it, and I think especially with the newer ones, it brings a new element to it, not just in the way it looks, but in its style as well.
I think what they did with Force Awakens was keep it really familiar for a first entry back. So it just
the
familiar. So there wasn't that much to hate, to be honest. Like it felt very familiar. It was a very known story arc already, because it pretty much mirrored A New Hope. And I guess that's where Return of the the second one. What was the second one called? Last Jedi, and then the Rise of Skywalker. They kind of merged, didn't they? So they diverted from the kind of arc.
Yeah, and Last Jedi was, at the time when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is what I wanted. And then I saw Rise of Skywalker, and I was like, no, I want The Last Jedi. Give me
Yeah,
more.
I know.
Like,
Yeah,
finish
same.
That plot.
Same.
My thoughts are basically that it was something worth keeping alive through the prequels, and then again through the Force Awakens.
Yeah, I agree. But if we'd had a better end to this set of the trilogy, well, I know it's a 9-tuplet, whatever you want to call it, but
the nonology.
The modern trilogy.
I'm coining the term nonology.
It maybe I'd feel differently, but I was so
I just feel like if you keep kicking the horse every 4 films, a good one comes along.
Well, no, we were actually talking about this earlier on today, where it's like there are 2 excellent Star Wars movies, 2 meh, 2 good,
pretty good,
2 meh, and the rest are bad.
Okay, run us through them.
No, you have to guess them.
Okay.
It's only the Skywalker ones.
Yeah.
So actually, very good, I would say Force Awakens and Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Good, I would say New Hope and Last Jedi.
Yep.
I would say Revenge of the Sith and
Return of the Jedi.
And then actively bad Phantom, Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker.
Now, I'm saying 3, 2, 2, 2 is a fine run rate for them to keep making these movies.
When a third of your movies are bad, though. And
yeah, but
we're not
including, almost a third are amazing.
We're not including your Rogue Ones, we're not including your Solos, so we're not even including all of them.
I'm just saying, the films that are amazing are so amazing in a genre that is otherwise completely devoid of life, you may as well keep going.
I think Rogue One, I thought was an experiment that paid off and worked. Keep doing that. Keep doing stories that are either really cool standalone stories, not based on characters we already know. Give us new stories. That's why The Mandalorian's working so well. Or give us an entirely new concept, an entirely new trilogy with characters that we can love.
Yeah, agreed. Because then you have no expectations for what they're producing. Like something like Rogue One, it took a separate story. You had no idea what they were going to do with it, and you just didn't know what they were going to do. So it was different. It was different, and it worked. And the same with Mandalorian as well. But you take something like Solo, you love the character of Han Solo, and therefore you're expecting something, and you're just disappointed when you don't get it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say carry on, but do something different with what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think for the big, don't continue the Skywalker saga, but for the big films, give it at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So as to digest it and come up with a whole new.
Break.
I guess what might be good is that they're doing this new saga, right? So it can.
Isn't it Ryan Johnson
Yeah,
as
so
well?
but at least it's not the Skywalker saga, so it's not something that you already love. They're not gonna.
And
They're
Ryan
not gonna.
Johnson tried with Last Jedi. Like,
Yeah.
I know it divides fans. I think people now like it way more than they did than when it came out because Rise of Skywalker was so bad. Me included, I like it more in retrospect. So I'm excited to see what he would do because he's willing to turn genres on their head a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And it's something original, isn't it? So I think original is always going to be something that is just loved by fans all over.
Yeah, I feel like that gets to the heart of all of these franchises, is when you can have something that's original, but still kind of gives you the warm fuzzies from having seen the previous ones. That's when you have, like, really enjoyable cinema experiences.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely Solo failed at 'cause it was all fan service.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've done Star Wars to death.
next one. This is something we mentioned before, but I know Kieran loves Pirates of the Caribbean.
You're all going to disagree with me, but I think 3 was the right number. Because I really have fun with numbers 2 and 3. You're all going to say that it was just the first one and it's all downhill since then. But what I would argue is the level of downfall between 3 and 4 is so vast that it recontextualizes 3 and makes 2 and 3 worth including.
I would say
agree.
it could have carried on up to 3, but if 2 and 3 were entirely different movies. I'm not opposed to it being a Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, just not with the 2 and 3 they made. They were garbage. Hot, steaming CGI garbage, which took out all of the fun and frivolity of the original.
Could have been worse. Could have been number 4.
That's true.
That doesn't make it better.
Yeah,
I've got him.
No.
No, I agree. I think the jump between 3 and 4 is like it's utter garbage. It's so big. The jump between 1 and 2 is kind of, I don't think it's that massive. And the same for 2 and 3. Although 2 is worse than 1, the gaps are smaller, whereas the gap between 3 and 4 is light years. It's honestly light years. I had to turn it off. I was like, this is shite.
I could live in a world where there was just one, but I think 2 and 3 are worth it just for the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
But definitely
I would
stop.
like to have a detailed analysis of what fun you guys are having with Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Because what are you actually smoking? It is a 3-hour torturous journey of Johnny Depp just gurning at the camera with pointless set pieces that are nowhere near as fun as the sword fighting sequences in the original.
I can tell you what's good about it.
What is wrong with you?
What's good about 2 and 3 is
is
exactly.
it Orlando Bloom's acting?
No.
Is it the chemistry between him and Keira Knightley?
It's da 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 da
the
da.
music.
Yes, the music's
The
great.
music is so good. One film wasn't enough for that soundtrack.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. But not the 2 and 3 we get. So yes, you can have 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but take 2 and 3 back.
Listen,
And
if you
give me
want that to
Salazar's
happen, they have
Revenge.
to make more.
No, I want to get the time travel can be a thing. Like, can you imagine the world that we'd live in if they made a good Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy?
There's a terrible virus coming for all of us. No, forget that. We need to remake Pirates of the
Look, I'm
Caribbean
not trying
2.
to say that if they did a good Pirates trilogy, that coronavirus wouldn't exist. But I'm saying we can't prove not that.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, the butterfly effect and all of that kind of thing,
Yeah,
the world
precisely.
could have been better.
Okay. So the next one we have.
Maybe
up
Donald
is
Trump wouldn't have got
Danny!
elected.
I don't know how much power you think Johnny Depp as a pirate has.
A lot. He was influential as hell.
Anyway, so the next one we have is The Hunger Games, which is different to all the rest because it is obviously based on the book series. There were 3 books and there were 4 films. But the reason I bring it up is because the difference between the popularity of the second film and the third and the fourth film made people, I think, lose faith and lose interest in the franchise. Thoughts?
Yeah, I originally read the first and second Hunger Game books, and for some reason never got round to reading the third one, and I don't quite know why I never did. But I know generally of people who are fans of the books don't like the third one. That's like kind of accepted as being
I love it.
popular. Yeah, well, that's really. I've never read it, and I'm not going to say it's a bad book because I can't say because I haven't read it. But I feel like generally the vibe towards the final book isn't as positive as the first two. So I think maybe spinning it out into the least popular book out into 2 films might not have been the best.
Yeah,
move,
that was the
potentially.
era of everything. Being Harry Pottered, as in splitting the last one.
Which
I was
Harry
just
Potter
looking this
earned
up.
it.
Yeah.
Harry
Yeah.
Potter earned
Yeah.
2 parts.
Harry Potter did it in sort of 2010, 2011. Twilight did it in 2012, and then Hunger Games did it in 2014, where I think we just got a bit tired of people stretching things out for the money.
Well, with Harry Potter, it didn't feel like it was stretching out for the money because it was like you've got like a 700. It's like 700 pages that book. It's like it's a dense book, so it makes sense to split it into 2 parts. And there's kind of almost like a 6-act structure within that book, so it kind of works well dividing it into 2 films. Whereas like with Twilight, you did not need it.
Yeah, there was not enough story to
1000%.
tell.
No, they spin it. And with Hunger Games, to be fair, I didn't mind the last 2 movies. I thought they were fine. But again, I recently rewatched the Hunger Games movies. I watched the first one, I watched the second one. Didn't bother watch the final 2 parts because I just couldn't be bothered. I don't know why.
For me, it feels like it's something they probably could have tied it up in a tight movie, rather than these 2 slightly bloated ones.
Yeah.
They felt very different in flavour, which I admit makes it difficult to turn into one script. But the problem with the Hunger Games series is the concept of the Hunger Games is dope in a sort of post-apocalyptic, horrifying kind of way. So having any kind of like having the world outside of the Hunger Games is no good, and the franchise probably could have ended.
And like the second film and book were able to get away with doing Hunger Games again because they kind of make it like an anniversary games, which is like you get to do the thing you like again, but with this final part you're out of the games.
I wonder
and it is
if that's
different.
why people kind of checked out, because it's not. There is no Hunger Games. There's no structure. It's more about war and suffering.
Yeah, very different. Very different.
Yeah.
All right, next franchise.
Danny, did you have anything to say on that?
I'm not the greatest fan. Not fan, I would say. Just like I don't really love it enough to be able to comment. You know, I haven't read the books. I've kind of watched the films once, but I would say that the one that I remember the most is the second one, and I think that was probably my favourite. And they could have probably stopped there. And then I watched.
I think you would be betraying the fans if they actually had, though.
I watched the third one and thought it was just a filler film for the last one. Like I remember, I went to go and see it at the cinema, and I came out thinking nothing happened, and that was just a complete sort of like tease for the next one. Yeah, that's what it felt like to me.
Fair enough. Okay, our next franchise, X-Men.
X-Men.
That one probably could have stopped at 3.
I don't. First Class is great, and also Days of Future Past.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think it's
I
about
feel
the same maths as Star Wars. You
like...
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some really good,
Can we-
average math,
The
but a
first.
good hit rate.
The first
I feel like
two.
it's on a different scale.
I feel like the last 2 have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they're all-
Apocalypse
but then
was it?
also, are we counting things like Logan, which is an unbelievable
Oh,
movie?
yeah.
That movie's better than it
Yeah.
needs to be. That is outstanding as
Yeah.
a film.
And Deadpool
So do we-
came from it.
And Deadpool, do we count any X-Men?
No, because I think
Or
it's
do we just count the X-Men?
Let's do it Star Wars style, like Skywalker Saga. So we'll do the X-Men team, those kind of films.
I think they should have stopped after Days of Future Past because it ended on such a neat note.
Was that the second one of the kind of reboot?
Yeah, because it was First Class and then it was Days
Yeah.
of Future
Those-
Past and then it ended on a lovely note and it's like you don't need to do anything more from here
Yeah.
and then they kind of stretched it too
Those
far.
two movies were really good actually, and I really enjoyed them. And I thought they were really well sort of like paced, and the tone of the movies was really good. And as sort of prequels go, they were satisfying for fans. But yeah, they took it too far. They kind of over-egged the pudding with the ones that come after. I can't remember one that I watched. Was it the one with Oscar Isaac? Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Yeah, that one was a load of garbage. Like they took it down some sort of mythical route that just, oh yeah, it was just too much for me. It was far too much.
Okay, so we're not binning X-Men quite yet.
I'm done with it.
I would fight to bin X-Men. I don't think Days of Future Past is worth it.
I'm not sure if they are going to do any more though, because of the backlash of the last few.
Well, no, I think they are because Disney now have the rights
Yeah,
to it.
they've been reabsorbed into the.
Disney will do something with X-Men. Like they've got technically they own New Mutants now,
Yeah,
which
but
just is never coming out.
They're ashamed.
I'm so sad because it had a release date. It was meant to be coming out, I believe, this month.
That's right.
And it's just like
That's the one with Maisie Williams, right? And they
they
seem
filmed
like they've completely
12
canned
years
it.
ago.
They seem like they've completely canned it.
Put it on Disney Plus and be done with it.
Yeah, they need to release
Separate
it.
category.
They need to release it, but maybe under the cover of darkness on Disney Plus with no, with no.
And the only way you can find
no
it is
press
actively
release at all,
searching.
yeah.
Like it's not going to be on the homepage.
Yeah, you have to do kind of like a cheat. There's like a sort of like secret back end.
Put in the Konami code,
Yeah.
and then Disney Plus will show
You have to do it on
the-
PlayStation with up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, and then you'll get access to it.
Alright, moving on to another superhero franchise, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Keep them going. Keep them going.
Well, I mean, so Spider-Man comes in phases. First, there's the Raimi trilogy,
Which is
we
fun.
all agree are amazing.
Yeah,
Then
even
there's-
the third one I
Wow.
like. That one is
Alright.
dumb and fun.
Yeah.
Then there's the cut halfway Amazing Spider-Man pair of movies.
Like the first one of that is just okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's good about them is Gwen Stacy.
Yes.
It was really good to have Gwen Stacy be a character.
Yeah.
And then there's the new ones, which we all agree are amazing, and Tom Holland is like...
And Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah.
Arguably
Yeah,
the best
let's do more of
Spider-Man
them.
movie ever.
Let's do more of
Like,
them.
give me endless ones of those,
Yeah.
and I adore Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think both of them. I even think Far From Home is better than Homecoming. I loved Far From Home. I thought it was excellent. It was so much fun. Actually had a villain that you could like. Both times they don't have the Marvel boring villain. They both have good villains in them.
Yeah, I mean, I think... So, Spider-Man is, like, the most popular comic book superhero of all time. Like, that's the reason he was the first one to be sold to another studio for movie rights when Marvel was low on money. Like, everyone just loves him. And the reason everyone loves Spider-Man is because the Rogues Gallery is absolutely tier 1. Venom, amazing villain. What Marvel have done with Mysterio and with the Vulture are amazing. And when you expand it, you think about Doc Ock, you think about the Goblins, all excellent villains. Spider-Man is quite cool just because he's like a teenager who fights good.
And Tom
but it's
Holland
the
is a
bad guys.
Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man because he looks age appropriate. I mean, like,
Yeah, that is
after
rare.
when Far From Home came out, and then Sony were like, "No, Disney, we're not going to be your friends anymore." I remember getting like a news alert for it on my phone at work, and me immediately stopping working, going over to my friend who I also like used to work with, and just going over, interrupting her mid-conversation and being like, Sony have pulled out of the deal, and she freaked out too. Because we were like, we can't let it end this way. It ended on such a good cliffhanger, and I love what they've done with MJ. I feel like that's like something cool and different. And I just like, it just feels like proper like modern teen kids in a school, and it's fun, and I want more of them.
Yeah.
So we'll let it continue because I
Completely
think it's
agree.
in very trusted hands right now.
Yeah, but I
Yes.
just want to make a note on the first trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy. Love the first one. The second one is arguably the better one. But the third one, although questionable, I would rather it exists because I don't want to live in a world where Black Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire strutting down the street does not exist.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that world.
It's worth it. It's worth it for the reference in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yes, for that alone.
Yeah.
I like Spider-Man 3. I think the Sandman storyline is really good. They just shouldn't have done Venom and all the other million villains they have in that movie.
They were running out of time. They needed to cram some bits.
Yeah.
They'll get Venom right eventually.
Yeah, actually, I haven't actually seen any of that Venom film. Was it any good? I know that there's another
I
one
haven't
coming
seen
out
it.
soon.
I've seen it, but it was one of those ones where I can't really remember it because it was a bit
It
meh.
was a bit meh.
So,
Was it very sort of cookie cutter superhero movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't really Didn't really tickle, yeah.
I think the best part of that Venom was when they released the first trailer and didn't include any shots of Venom. So it looked like it could be a film about literally anything.
No, the best thing was when they released the trailer and it's like a turd in the wind.
Venom had a real production problem. They couldn't decide if they wanted to make it R-rated or not. They didn't know what level of watered down Deadpool they were going for.
I feel like if it hadn't have had Tom Hardy, it'd have died.
Oh, yeah, it would have
But because
flopped.
he committed so hard and was like, I love Venom, I'm here for it, it got over the line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we got another classic out of Eminem. So. Venom! No? Anyone? No song? Okay, cool. Moving on!
Moving on.
Next we have Jurassic Park, which I know, Melissa, you're an expert on.
I'm an expert, but controversially, I'm going to say it should have stopped at Jurassic Park 1.
Absolutely
Yeah.
agree. 100%.
Totally agree.
Sack off all other films.
Totally agree.
Because the second one, as much as I love Jeff Goldblum and his daughter who does gymnastics, which is somehow a very important plot point, it just doesn't work as soon as you're like... Actually, in contrast to Spider-Man, when they're like, what can we do next? Let's take him on holiday. It's like, you don't take the dinosaurs on holiday. You don't take them to New York. That's dumb. Is it New York they go to? I can't remember where they go. They go to somewhere not on...
It's got to be San Francisco.
I can't remember.
Something.
They go somewhere in America and it's like, no. And I hate Jurassic World and I love Jurassic World 2 because halfway through Jurassic World 2, they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a haunted house but with dinosaurs. And I think that's hilarious. It is the dumbest film I have ever seen. There's stuff about cloning and it's just weird and it goes on for far too long and there's this weird creepy auction where like it's just bizarre.
You get
and,
some seriously cheap dinosaurs at that auction.
You get cheap dinosaurs. The whole idea who when they were making both Jurassic Worlds were like, you know what we should do? Dinosaurs as weapons. Who came up? That is so
Hey, it's
dumb.
on par with Jurassic Park 3 talking dinosaur in a dream.
Yeah, that is also terrible.
Okay, my argument for why there should have only been one Jurassic Park movie is because at the moment, Jurassic Park kind of occupies the space of interesting dinosaur movie, and no one else can include dinosaurs in a movie because they would just be doing Jurassic Park. But if Jurassic Park didn't exist, then it's a sort of fertile ground to do interesting, weird stories that just happen to have dinosaurs in some capacity.
But you're always going to have... If you have dinosaurs in modern day, it's always going to have to be, we found out a way of making dinosaurs, and therefore it's always going to be...
Jurassic
Park. But Jurassic Park is one of the few perfect movies out there. There's literally nothing wrong with that movie. And it finished, like, I feel like it's a complete story because the whole kind of ethical quandary of like kind of man versus, can man control nature, should we, shouldn't we, all that kind of stuff, it's perfectly resolved in that movie. So don't go back and open up that box another 4 times, because like when they make Jurassic World, it's like, did you learn nothing? Like when it goes wrong, it's like, well, of course it was gonna go wrong. Did you not see the first movie? When they're like, oh, we're gonna make this really weird epic dinosaur that can go invisible. It's like, what were you think? Did you learn nothing? Literally nothing. So no, stop after the first one. First one's
yeah.
great.
If you haven't learned if you haven't learned from your mistakes in the first movie, then I'm not on board. It's just we're seeing the same thing over and over again, and it's like, learn from your mistakes, god damn it!
Yeah, you're not allowed to be shocked anymore.
Yeah.
When you get eaten by a dinosaur, to be honest.
It's like, oh, that dinosaur's escaped. Well, no shit. All right.
I did see a tweet recently that was something along the lines of, Jurassic World. I used to think Jurassic World didn't make sense because I couldn't imagine the idea of billionaires putting ordinary people at risk just so they could make a bit more money. But now it kind of seems realistic.
Yeah.
Bleak.
And on that note,
Okay, Transformers. How about?
nah, I shouldn't have even had one. It was crap.
Yeah, agreed with that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, we're
I
agreed.
want to see Bumblebee. I want to see a girl fall in love with a robot. But apart from that,
I think that they should have stopped before the first one, because the first one was just a Michael Bay's excuse for some Megan Fox titillation.
That's every movie he makes.
That's also true.
Even when Megan Fox isn't in it, somehow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Moving
so
on.
we're venturing into animated territory. We got Shrek.
Stop
2.
after 2.
2 for sure.
I say keep going. I think the problem with the Shrek franchise is that we grew up.
I don't think so. I'm very young at heart.
I think
Yeah.
I'm not bitter or jaded at all.
maybe it was because they run out of epic songs. The first 2 had such great songs that
Yeah.
like stand the test of time, and the soundtrack resonates with everyone and we all know it. But then you kind of move past the second one, and what are the songs in the third one?
Can't even remember. That's a good point.
Okay, fine. I will agree with you that we should only have 2.
Is the third one with Justin Timberlake or is the fourth one with Justin
Third
Timberlake?
one is just
What even happens in the third one?
he's like
there's
the
something-
king or the cousin, and he's going to become the king or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Merlin.
I saw the one where there's the... Oh, what's he called? I can't remember what the name of the mythical character is, but he's like a little ginger dude. And he it's like the It's a Wonderful Life scenario of I wish I'd never been born, but it's I wish I was never...
That's the fourth one, yeah.
Yeah, that one was not good. None of them are good. The first 2, the first one is fun. The second one is weirdly better.
Okay, I have a proposition.
Okay.
We keep the first 2 under the condition that we can keep Shrek 4D.
But Shrek 4D is a midquel between 1
Between
and 2.
1 and 2. So we have to keep 2 and a bit movies.
Yeah. I'd argue to keep Shrek 4D.
I'm a big fan of Shrek 4D.
What is a Shrek 4D?
What is Shrek?
In a theme
4D?
park again.
Yes, so it also happens to be a Universal Studios Orlando.
Sorry, I know we keep bringing it back.
should
to
Everything
theme parks.
comes back to
Hashtag
theme
not sponsored.
parks.
We should be a theme park podcast. This is ridiculous.
We should be a theme park
Okay,
podcast.
Shrek 3D was also released on DVD along with Shrek 1. So
It was, and you got little glasses in the case.
Yes, at home cinema. So basically, it's a 3D animation, but one of those ones where Donkey goes through the screen and goes, "Oh, it's like I'm in a whole nother dimension." It is very
I see,
3D, and people go,
Like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of thing.
"Yeah,
I see,
Yes,
yeah.
and it's got Lord Farquaad is in it as a ghost.
yeah."
And you just took me back on a whole trip down memory lane. My dad is into 3D in the way that people should give up. He would still potentially go see a movie in 3D if he could. He was one of those people who was slightly disappointed when they stopped doing the 3D thing. He's very excited about the next Avatar movies coming out and has been for the last 12
They'll
years.
try and kickstart that dead horse, won't they?
And I remember him, I think he went to Sainsbury's and being very excited when he found the DVD of Shrek which had the 3D ones in, because he had recently purchased a 3D television in which you could watch this DVD on in the best way possible with real 3D glasses. And he was so excited. Do you remember that 3D TVs?
Yeah, I remember that brief period.
We used it once, and I think it was to watch Shrek.
Did anyone else watch Spy Kids 3 or 3D? I think it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
called.
Yeah, but yeah, anything that was 3D as kids, I guarantee you my dad took us to see
I
it.
love that.
Yep. Piranha 3 Double D.
Oh my gosh, that
I mean,
was
surprisingly, my
insane.
dad did not take me to
Ah.
see that one.
I see. Yeah, 3D is kind of that thing that just keeps coming back, doesn't it? It's like you kick it down and
Every
you're like,
10 years.
stay dead,
But then
stay
James
dead.
Cameron's like, but it will look great! And it's like, fine.
Yeah, and then
You're allowed to make one movie every 12 years, James, and for some reason you want it to be a 3D one. Of all the hills to die on, why would it be Avatar?
yeah, it just won't die, will it? It just keeps coming back, even though, and then they come up with 3D TVs and you think, oh, okay, this is going to be the next big thing, and then it just dies a miserable death. I think it should just stay dead. Can we have that on the list of we should kill it off?
I mean, with Avatar, how excited are people for all the sequels that got lined up? Because they're planning another 5 or something. It's only been 12 years, guys.
I know, yeah. Well,
I'm okay with it as long as there is a 12-year gap between every film.
I love it.
I can't wait for us to actually just become avatars.
Yeah,
I can't wait for them to try and make that movie in today's society, because even in the space of 12 years, we really have learned a lot about how you treat other cultures and stuff. And I just don't think that people with feathers in their hair is gonna really fly anymore.
I think by the time, if they do stick to this 12-year separation between films, by the time the 5th one comes out, we might indeed be avatars.
Yeah, exactly. The film may actually
Fingers
be
crossed.
us, entering the Avatar world. Who knows?
Us specifically. Us four people
Four of us.
Yes,
specifically.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, next up, leather animation, Toy Story.
Stop at 3, 4 is pointless.
Agreed.
I'd say stop at 2.
Stop at 2.
3 was too sad.
I think just because they came out in the 90s, it's just a special time in childhood, I didn't need it as a grown-up. But then again, I haven't even seen the 3rd one, so I shouldn't really say anything, but I'm like, I'm good with the first two.
The third one. The third one is really, really good, and it has the best resolution and heart, and it's like it finishes it perfectly about Andy going into like adulthood, and then they make the 4th one. You're like, why? Like the 4th one isn't a bad movie. It's fine, but it's like, but everything was resolved, and they make it like they basically give Woody. They make him be unresolved in order to resolve him in that film, when actually he was totally fine by the end of the 3rd one.
Yeah, and I think as as the generation who grew up with those films, the 3rd one ends in such a great way that it's almost like the generation is moving on also.
Okay,
And,
I feel like I've missed out a chunk of my life here.
You
I'm
know,
gonna go watch Toy Story 3.
and
I'll
they-
be right back.
we'll wait.
It's really good. Like that, without spoiling anything, the scene at the end, which is kind of like the resolution,
I
the
feel like you're about
music
to
in
spoil
that
everything.
the music in that scene, just thinking of that music makes me want to cry my eyes out. It is the most, like, again, at one time when me and Kieran were at a theme park in Orlando, Florida, we saw a live orchestra doing the music of Pixar, and they played the music specifically from that scene, and everybody was crying because it's like the most touching. It's like sad and happy at the same time. It's wonderful. So yes, keep 3. Stop there. You don't. 4 is a fine film, but it's not a necessary film. It's a weaker ending.
Do you think they've learned what that 4 really wasn't necessary, that they'll stop now?
I think they will do, because I can't see how they would continue from this point.
Yeah.
But then I said that about 3, so who knows? They'll probably fine. If it makes, like, Toy Story prints the money, and they rely so heavily on Toy Story merch still, that they probably will in the next 5 years make another
Yeah,
one.
and having worked at Disney, I kind of know that they are happy to kind of keep churning things out that are cash cows. Like I know specifically with the Cars franchise, when I was there, they had loads of Cars franchises planned out because they knew that the merchandise was the main cash cow for them. They knew that they were going to get the money from merchandising.
Yeah.
So
The children
So
aren't going to be critical, are they?
they would just put a placeholder in the future for like Cars 4, because they knew if they made it, they'd make a shed load of money from all the other stuff that goes with it. So
I mean, if there's a space in the market, if little boys want to see films about cars,
Yeah.
it's kind of fine.
yeah,
It's not fine though, because if you keep making the same thing over and over, the art of cinema is going to die. We're not going to get any originality or any good ideas anymore. It's going to be the same IPs over and over. I think that we need to make space for new creators and new stories, otherwise we're just going to get the same regurgitated stories over and over, and that's not good for anyone. Nobody benefits, nobody wins.
precisely.
Sorry, Kieran.
It's fine. I'll ponder that at length. It's quite deep.
Okay, next up we have something that has been going for more than 30 years. Terminator.
Ooh, I love Terminator 1 and 2, and no others exist.
Yeah, it is a 2-film franchise.
Again, it is a 2-film franchise, but you have to keep the 3D film that they have at Universal Studios
Oh my
Orlando.
God.
Oh my god.
Actually, no, they
Got
closed,
'em.
they closed that about 2 years ago. But it was a thing, and it is great.
See, I would argue that most people don't even think Terminator 1 is good.
What? Excuse me, sir?
I just think
Excuse
Terminator
me.
2 is amazing.
What is wrong with Terminator 1?
It's just not as good as Terminator 2.
Give me reasons. An explicit detailed bullet points, nay, essays. I need you to explain to me what is wrong with Terminator 1. Terminator 1 is absolutely great. Terminator 2, you're right, is better. It's more complex and it has more heart and it has more moral quandaries in it. Fair enough. Terminator 1 is still great.
Terminator 1 just a bit cookie cutter. It's just a bit like...
Tell me what's cookie cutter about it.
It's just like damsel, hero, villain.
So, like, all movies ever
Yeah,
that have done that.
That's not good enough.
So-
Terminator 2 turns it on its head.
So you're saying that it's fine for them to keep on making the Cars franchise over and over, but Terminator 1, which did something new for the sci-fi genre, is too cookie cutter for you?
Cars movies are paying for good movies to be made.
Kieran, I'd like a divorce. We're not married, but I want a pre-divorce. I want to marry you and then divorce you because that is an absolutely ludicrous statement. What are you smoking?
I mean, I'm just saying. I think.
Anyway, Danny Tara, what do you think about the Terminator movies?
I really liked, I can't remember what it's called. What does that say about me? The one with Sam, what's his face in it?
Sam Worthington and Christian Bale.
Salvation.
Yeah,
What's that? Is that Dark Fate?
No.
Salvation, I think.
No.
Salvation. Yeah.
Yep.
I liked it. Sorry.
You liked it? Isn't that the one where Christian Bale, like, absolutely went off on one on set?
I was about to say, that's why I like that. I've never seen the movie. I will forever love it for the good for you, which I still quote all the time because it's so funny when he's just yelling at a guy for not doing a lamp properly, and he's like, "You're such an unprofessional. You'll never work in this town again."
No, it wasn't
It's like
doing it,
Christian
not doing it
Bale.
properly. It was that they started shooting a scene and he walked through the scene.
Oh, I thought that he was going, like, the guy was going to, like, fix a lighting fixture, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And just completely, like, lost it. This poor guy just trying to do his job.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And I just think it's hilarious. Good
It's
for
worth it,
you!
then. It's worth it.
I've never seen the
Salvation
film,
gets
but
to
I
say.
just know that is the film that Christian Bale lost it.
So, are we saying the whole franchise is worth it for that one?
Yeah,
Up,
I
public
think
up
so.
to
meltdown?
Salvation, then they can stop.
I think what we've
Stop
learned
with
is
the-
more
with
is more
the
Christian
video
Bale.
in it. They can stop with the other one. I don't know how many there are now, but yeah.
The
that was
third one has some good ideas in it. It's just not anywhere near as good. I think they really when Linda Hamilton wasn't in the third one, that really was to its detriment. Like, Sarah Connor is such a good character, and I think that's why 2 is so strong, because she's a really good character in the first one because she's almost like the every woman. Like, she is kind of plucked out of nothing and suddenly she's like the most important woman in the world, and what do you do with that? And then seeing how strong she has to become in the second one to look after her son, that is really interesting. And losing her character arc was a real shame. Like, it didn't quite work for the third one. As interesting as John Connor could be, it's Sarah Connor's story.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. I would agree with that.
good for you.
Good
for
for
you.
you.
Okay, Alien.
Ooh.
Stop after 2 again. It's the same thing. Stop after 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the third one is, I'm quite biased because I'm a massive David Fincher fan, but I know that it was his first feature movie and he was kind of thrown into it with no sort of help at all. He used to make music videos and they were like, "Here we go, here's Alien 3, enjoy." It's a big franchise, make something of it, and he had no idea what he was doing. So I kind of feel sorry for the fact that Alien 3 was pretty much a shambles in the beginning, so it was never going to be a good film. But the first 2 are fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Alien 4 is also incredibly weird. The one where, like, she's like a clone of
Yeah.
herself. Like, it's just they so far go from what the original 2 were. And even, like, 1 and 2 are very different, because 1 is an out-and-out horror. It's a horror
Yeah,
film.
it is, yeah.
And 2 is more of a war movie. But they find their genre and they really stick close to it, and that's why they both work in their own way. Whereas 3 and 4 don't really have that. Like, 4 has, like, we're trying to be the Matrix kind of vibe, like, in terms of aesthetic at least. It's the one where they have made clones of Ripley. I don't quite know how they managed to do it, but, like, it's like she's a hybrid between an alien and a human. It's very strange. Winona Ryder's in it.
Okay.
It's not
I
very
haven't seen
good.
that one.
It's not great. And the Prometheus movies.
Yeah, I'm in favour of any plan, which means we don't have to
Yeah,
have
me
Prometheus.
too. Me too.
I have
I've seen those.
I have a weird. I haven't seen any of the ones after Prometheus, but I hate Prometheus as a movie. But I've watched it several times, just waiting for. I'm like, I need something to click that makes me believe this is a good movie, because there are things I like about it. Like, I like the fact they've got like there's like those creator people, and they look like the alien that they find on, like, in the first Alien in the suit, and that's really cool. And I almost like it, but then it's so dumb.
It's so dull.
I think not only have we had to put up with Prometheus, we also have to put up with all the articles and video essays trying to explain Prometheus and trying to make sense of Prometheus. And I just don't want to have spent any of the hours that I spent unpacking that pile of garbage.
Listen, I agree with that. Like, you know, there's so much to it that you have to try and understand. But I spent the majority of a 3-hour movie trying to figure out whether it was Tom Hardy that was the main guy. That was the biggest thing that threw me off. I was just like, this guy looks like Tom Hardy. Is this Tom Hardy? Oh my god, this guy is. It's definitely Tom Hardy. It's Tom Hardy's brother. It's definitely Tom Hardy's brother. That was the movie for me.
What a recommendation. Go
More
check out
worthwhile than experiencing the
I'm still not even sure.
No, I remember just being so angry because it's like, A, what a waste of Idris Elba, and then B, the conversation she has with Idris Elba, and he's like, hey, do whatever you gotta do, but don't you bring anything back on board. And she's like, I won't. And like the scene before, she's had like an alien abortion in which she has locked an alien creature in a room, and she's like, don't worry, Idris Elba, I won't bring anything back on board because I already have. It's like, oh, you cheek. You cheeky minx, you.
So have you guys not? You've not seen Covenant, the one after, right?
I've seen that.
You know what? I preferred it to Prometheus. I thought it was okay.
It was.
I thought it was. I thought it was enjoyable.
I also enjoy films to being hit in the face. What?
I thought it was okay.
Do still continue the theme of acting the way that no person would ever act.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That ridiculously stupid that they get themselves killed.
I agree with that. I agree, but it had some intrigue to it, and it had some substance to it, rather than Prometheus, which was just utter script diarrhea.
I like that now there's a cultural reference of the Prometheus school of running away from things.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's like, you know, that clip of, is it Benioff or Weiss after Game of Thrones? It's like, oh, she just didn't like think about the fleet, and it's like, oh, they didn't think to run left.
Yeah, we kind of forgot about that one.
Okay, we are moving on to our final franchise that some of us may enjoy more than others, and that is Saw.
Saw? Ah, yes, they should have stopped at 1.
Lisa, do you think we should have stopped at nothing?
No, because I'm not a huge horror fan, not because I think horror is a bad genre, but because I psychologically can't handle most horror movies. I saw it and thought the clown was in the room. I saw Us and I thought Lupita Nyong'o was coming at me with scissors. Like, I can't cope with them. However, I think, having not seen Saw, from what I understand of the story, it sounds really interesting, and it's not explicitly a body horror movie until arguably the soaring bit, but then it feels like what they did with the rest of the movies was like, how can we cut up humans? And
it sort of defies belief after the first one, and like the first one is really interesting and unique, and it's low budget, and I think it works in the same way that kind of like Blair Witch does, in that it's very small and it's very like contained. But they had a hit on their hands with the first one, and then they kind of took it to all extremes and just kind of just ran with it.
I think I'm going to bat for Saw here. I kind of feel like numbers 2 and 3, after which I admit they should have stopped, like they do something. It's not like Saw 1 is an amazing psychological horror movie. Like, wow, what a triumph. Saws 2 and 3 are just a really weird thing that all teenagers seem to like have to go through. You have to have a film that tests what you can handle in terms of weird and like gross. And it was a very important part of my childhood to be like, person being ripped open by their like ribs. Yeah, no, that's too much for me. But person crawling around on needles, I feel like I can handle that. No other film tests those in like such
Like
a
a rite of
unique
passage.
and graded scale.
Side note, when I think I was about 15, I went to a sleepover and they're like, we're going to watch Saw. And I was like, cool, I'm going to have a nap. And I slept through it and woke up for after. And they were all like, it like they'd been to war. Like they saw some things. And I was like, cool, do you guys want to like hang out and paint nails? And they're like,
It's so true. Those films are like a rite of passage. I kind of agree in the way that you're kind of just like it just tests your kind of your boundary and your threshold, and then you get to a certain point. I don't know whether it's Saw 3 or like 8, where you're just like, nah, I'm out. I'm out for doing that to humans now. Let's stop it.
I think there's a real thing about the morbid fascination of it, the body horror.
Yeah.
Because, so I watched this YouTube series called The Kill Count, where they go through horror films and count how people died in the film and how it was done and what was the best one and what was the worst one and all that. So they did a kill
Which,
count.
can I just know, that's pretty messed up. Carry on, Tara.
Yeah, but horror fans love it. I don't know why. See, I love it. So there's a film called Jigsaw, which is part of the Saw franchise, which is the latest one. I didn't watch that film, but I watched the kill count of it because I wanted to know what contraptions there were and how people died, because I have never cared what the storyline of Saw is, and I could not tell you.
I just want to know how people get like chopped
Yeah,
up.
You just
But
wanted
I'm
to do.
clearly not the only one, because that was their most popular like YouTube kill count. Like they got millions of views on that because people really wanted to know.
Because people were really doing their homework, and every single view should have been referred on to the police.
There's just this fascination. I think that's why those films work, because yes, the story goes downhill, they're not really trying, and it's more about the horror the later it goes. But that's just what some people want to see. Judge me if you will. I found it really interesting.
No, I'm with you. I think we have to end our rundown on just a winner. Saw is terrible and I hate it, but I feel like it should exist.
It's a
No.
character
Yeah,
builder.
you go, Saw.
Yes.
It is a character builder.
I feel like it's a murder builder. Like people get a lot of inspo. But then again, like I'm turning into one of those mums like video games make kids hit each other, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of realising is that I don't think, apart from Tara, we can't handle Saw. Me and you certainly can't, Lissa. Danny, like, maybe you can handle it if you're like really worked up.
I
to
mean,
it.
I think
But that's an important thing to
there was
know.
one where some guy's like jaw gets broken, like it like
Yeah.
completely rips over, and I think that was when I kind of signed off. I was like, I'm not
What's his face?
I'm not in for sort of ripping jaws apart. That's where I tap out.
Isn't for
Yeah.
that. Like genuinely, who wants that?
You know what?
No
I
one
can't
healthy
watch
people.
any real life reference to blood or surgery or anything like that. But Saw or any kind of body horror film where I know it's fake, I think is amazing. But you get into real life, I'm like, no, that makes me want to puke. Like, I can't even. I remember one lecture at uni was about the study of bones. I just spent the whole thing just curled up in my seat, like, let this end. Like, I can't handle that, but it's not real, so.
But hey, yeah,
Don't worry.
just ripping someone's rib cage open. Why not?
Yeah, like, whatever.
If it's fake, it's fake.
I'm imagining this. Having not seen it, I'm imagining this scene. Has anyone seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and the bit where he carves the turkey?
No.
No? Okay, if anyone listening, all of our 2 listeners, who include our mums, is listening, that bit in National Lampoon's hilarious, right? That's definitely what the visual is.
Oh God. All right.
I'm going to
Probably
call your
closer
mum
than
after
you'd
this
like.
and get a soundbite of her saying, yes, Lissa.
She's asked you to stop calling her Tara. It's getting a bit much.
Nah, she loves me. Okay, great chat, guys. When are we going to start our own franchise is the real question.
We already have. And when should we stop? Never.
Never.
Hey, thanks for listening, mums.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mum.
Bye.
Bye.